NXT 2.0. They did their 1 year anniversary show on Tuesday, and the big item coming out of it you thought was going to be the return, the unexpected return of Solo Sikoa beating Carmelo Hayes for the North American title, ending his second reign as champion, which I really like that outcome for several reasons. Number one, it's to me an excuse that you can have this North American title be just over his shoulder on SmackDown. Like, I imagine there's going to be a period of him being back and forth. I think it elevates the title, it elevates Sikoa, and it gets one of their titles. Just even, it doesn't even have to be defended on SmackDown, just that now he's carrying this title. It's a nice reminder. It was a big surprise to go off the air. And then we got the closing video voiced by Shawn Michaels, explaining what NXT is and pretty much outlining exactly what it is. That here it is, we cultivate young talent and then they move on to Raw and SmackDown. Like, in their own words, like, this is the system that we have created. But then ending with a new black and gold logo for NXT, and certainly opening up the expectation that I don't know if you're going to see a radical difference, but I think much more kind of a melding of the two separate eras of NXT that most are familiar with of the last year, with kind of the going back to this black and gold where you're going to see elements of the past kind of intertwined with sort of this much different NXT 2.0 that we saw over the last year.
Certainly, yeah. I think it's probably, like, let's remember, black and gold, I think we all have very fond memories of, but there were problems with that too. And the problems mainly being, I think, a difficult transition between what that vision was to what the main roster was. And you can argue
a key reason of that is now out of the equation as well. Like, this is this is the most streamlined you're going to get, because it's not, man, I hope that this character that works in NXT is going to be to the vision of the main roster. Like, you have a much more streamlined process now that, like, I don't have those concerns of a Carmelo Hayes going up to the main roster and, man, is this guy going to make it? Is he not? At the very least, this guy's going to be given every opportunity when he gets there, and it's not going to be an immediate just dismissal based on his height or some issue out of his control that he can't even get out of the gate, and he's given a red helmet to walk out on Raw and lose to Jeff Hardy in seconds with.
But I think one of the main things we saw, change with 2.0 is sort of like an insistence on younger talent and inexperienced talent that hadn't come from the independents and with very, like lesser known names heading into the company than, like an ROH talent, for instance. So you wonder if, like, that'll be maintained, if there's still going to be that insistence on, like, the next in line, talents and their transitions up, or if they're going all the way back and maybe hunting, for talents that are from the independents. Right now, of course, they have the NXT UK guys coming in, making a big chunk of the roster, bringing a lot of experience in. So, well, I'm very curious to see what sort of changes and exactly how much from the black and gold sort of ethos, makes its way back. But it's exciting.
It is. And yeah, like what this... Because it's not like you can just snap your fingers and suddenly wear the NXT of 2 years ago, because, like, you don't have that top to bottom NXT roster that you did of 2 years ago. You can go out and you can sign guys. There's a lot less available out there, but there are rising talents that you can certainly sign. But again, it comes down to, like, there are, like, what happens to your, like, a Tiffany Stratton, for instance, or, go over all of these different acts that you've introduced. If you want to fill this show up with more experienced talent, well, then we're back to that initial problem that this became two separate NXTs. There was the developmental brand, and then there was your hard work rate independent competition that just gave you satisfying matches of talent that were veterans at that point, that had been wrestling for 10 years. And that's why I don't see just this automatic, it's gigantic change, but more so trying to morph the two to coexist, that this is elements of the past, but still focusing on a lot of this younger talent and inexperienced talent, because this is not just a standalone brand. This is, let's get talent up and running, and boom, it's graduation class and onto Raw or SmackDown.
Yeah, without a 2.0, I don't know if somebody like a Solo Sikoa would have, found themselves in the position that they are currently in. or Braun Breaker, getting the type of opportunities and development that he's had over the past year. Same with the Tiffany Stratton. So I imagine those are elements of like the new 2.0 that they probably want to retain, that they would consider successful. The Creed brothers, like guys like that being put into the spotlight of this show and being treated as like, the stars of the show versus, if like, I don't know, if a Red Dragon were still down there. I don't exactly know if, we'd be talking about the Creed brothers so much. So I imagine like there's still going to be room for like, I don't know, maybe the independent star making their way in. But I also wonder if like there's more of a direct line to the main roster now for, let's say, talent that have TV experience, maybe talents jumping over from AEW. What in the past I could see, people being brought into the NXT system for, I don't know, a year of seasoning, or maybe like more than that in some cases. Now I could see a direct transition from somebody being on AEW TV to WWE TV.
Yeah, and you also have the option of you can take the odd man or woman off the main roster and send them down there to work a 6-week program. Like that to me is very beneficial for some of these talents that, I mean, we're looking at, I mean, that vignette they ran for the female surfer. So Roka, something. I'm blanking on the name, but I mean, there's somebody that's had, I think, 6 matches in her entire career, and she's been thrown onto television. And, some people are going to click, but I look at someone like Lash Legend and just like, this is one of the best athletes this company has ever signed. And she's been thrown out there into the deep end, and we've seen her like struggle on a significant level. And I do question, like, is that going to be a difficult first impression to break among fans if, 2 or 3 years down the road, she improves dramatically, but there's this year that, I mean, she has just been in the deep end and has not responded well. You are going to have those examples too of talent that are thrown out there way too early, and maybe finding a bit of a middle ground of, instead of just throwing everything at the wall and hopefully half of them stick, looking at ones that, okay, we can give this person more time at live events and not necessarily rush them to television, because we have a lot invested in a number of these talents.
Yeah. I think more of a mix of, your veterans plus the occasional appearance from somebody who's brand new at this, maybe starting them off with what they do best. And that's, maybe speaking on the microphone and lessening their in-ring time, hiding them in tag teams. That'll probably ultimately prove to be a more effective use of, promoting new talents and giving them that sort of experience. But I just even the changing of the colors, I think, shows at this point like a real awareness and a willingness to listen to what the audience likes. Ultimately, like if what the rainbow colors represented something like a roster that I think it was more favorable to like an internet audience, we wouldn't be, so down on it. But it's more so, I think, the idea that, we'll be going back to what you guys used to love about this, that I don't know, that seems that they seem to want to, bring back. So I'm very curious to see what else besides the colors are changing about this new NXT.